I don't remember being taught about consent at school, other than no means no. What I do remember is being told not to walk home on my own, or I'd risk being raped by a stranger in a dark alley. He didn't mean to. They said that the 22-year-old woman was bound to attract attention. She was wearing a white lace miniskirt, a green tank top, and no underwear. A jury showed little sympathy for the victim. The accused rapist was acquitted. We all feel she asked for it by the way she was dressed. Isn't it true that you're taking psychotropic drugs? I look to my lawyers for help, but they can't talk to me from there. So I look up at the judge. He looks back to me, waiting for an answer. A disturbing trend in many cases of domestic abuse, sexual violence, and rape against women is the tendency to blame the victim of the crime rather than the perpetrators. The verdict of the jurors may have been influenced by a widespread tendency to believe that victims of misfortune deserve what happens to them. The need to see victims as the recipients of their just deserts can be described by what psychologists call the just world hypothesis. In the hypothesis, people have a strong need to believe that the world is an orderly, just, and predictable place where people get what they deserve. My body is not my own. It belongs to society, and you can use it as you deem fit and then crumble it and throw it in a pit with thorns in my hair and my dress hitched up, my bare bottom an open invitation for your 20 minutes of action. It is estimated that 77% of all sexual assaults go unreported. 77% of victims will not and cannot come forward. Studies point towards victim blaming as the leading cause of these unreported cases. Victim blaming culture persists every time a bystander says, "Only weak men get assaulted." And every time a rape prevention discourse focuses on what women can do to prevent what happens to them, or when a headline states, "She was raped," rather than "he raped her." This language and focus on the victims marginalizes the survivors and prevents them from coming forward. It's important that we are aware of our contributions to the continuation of this discourse. The effects of victim blaming can be fought on an individual level. It's not their fault, a program, because nobody should be afraid to speak out. When I was raped, it wasn't in the street, but in my own student house. I had taken the precaution of being walked home by someone I knew. It wasn't really rape. You can see his excitement from across the courtroom. My heart is racing. I feel completely confused. And I have no idea what any of this means. Melvin Lerner, a social psychologist, conducted a study to prove the just world hypothesis. In a 1965 study, he concluded that a student who had entered the lottery and won a cash prize worked harder than the other students who lost the lottery. He throws his head back and laughs as if I'm trying to hide the truth. And then he looks to me and says, "Isn't it true that you're taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications every day?" Oh my God, this is what he's talking about? I look to my lawyers, who are looking visibly worried. Within this culture of victim blaming, women are told to change their own behavior in order to avoid being assaulted or raped. Women are told repeatedly to dress less provocatively, drink less alcohol, and not put themselves in risky situations. This proliferates the belief that women are at fault when they are attacked. I've heard the term victim blaming a lot recently. I want to call it victim shaming. Should I have been ashamed that I was taking SSRIs and anxiety medications just to be able to live in the same town and co-parent with my abuser without having anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and depression so bad on some days that I couldn't even leave my home, despite my refusal to go to the bedroom and my repeated attempts to get him to leave. He was relentless. Why would you let me in if you didn't want something to happen? She wanted it. These two young men that had such promising futures literally watched as they believed their lives fell apart. What is the lasting effect on two young men found guilty of rape, essentially, in juvenile court? Within this culture of victim blaming, women are told to change their own behavior to avoid being assaulted or raped. Better curl up in your cocoon of fear and know that being a woman is always unsafe. Because even justice favors the powerful assaulters. However, despite all our efforts, even if we still get raped, well, we have none others but ourselves to blame. As abuse victims, we are put under the microscope, through the ringer, and basically flattened by a steamroller. Or so it seems during the divorce process. We are blamed, shamed, scrutinized, and asked if our behavior or lies are a way for us to get a better feel on custody of our children or a better financial settlement. And this is not just my story. This is the story of every single woman in every single state. I had been drinking. I let him into my apartment. I didn't physically try to fight him off. Fear took over. Surely that meant it was my fault, right? Why did you drink so much, they asked. What were you doing outside so late? Are you committed to your boyfriend? Are you getting enough sex? Maybe it was your outfit or the fact that being drunk equals consent. That poor rapist has suffered enough. Enough! This is disgusting and it needs to stop now! I prayed every single night for those days to end, just so I could stop looking back and I could move on with my life. Now that I'm here, I know I can't do that. And I know you are out there. I know you are being treated just the same. I know you are in those courtrooms, and I know you are being called unstable, a liar, unbalanced. And I know that you are lying in your bed at night with tears streaming down your face as you worry about the custody of your children and your financial future. The belief in a just world may take the place of a genuine commitment to justice. For some people, it's easier to assume that forces beyond their control mete out justice. When that occurs, the result may be the abdication of personal responsibility, acquiescence in the face of suffering or misfortune, and indifference towards injustice. Taken to the extreme, indifference can result in an institutionalization of injustice. Since I first wrote about my story, trolls criticized my experience, victim blamed me, called me a liar, an attention seeker, and a slut. They belittled my campaign and devalued my feelings. But I've already done that to myself. Thousands of young people like me have done that to themselves. Well, it's important for women to continue to educate themselves on how to prevent rape. It's important that we extend this education to men as well. Men and women need to work together to change the culture of victim blaming and help reduce violence against women.